My ex dumped me to get her kitty pounded by sweaty frat guys. Now she's begging for me back. We were high school sweethearts and each other's first everything. I thought she was going to be the one. However, she had other plans. After a week of partying in college, she came home and broke up with me. Her reasoning? That while she loves me with all of her heart and I am the one she wants to be with forever and marry while she is in college, she does not want to be tied down and needed to be able to have her fun. She even went on to tell me that she wanted to make sure I knew she would always practice safe intimacy for our future together. I begged her not to do this and that under no circumstance would I ever consider this okay. She said that over time I'd understand and to stop being a weak little b-word. She even made me promise to use protection as well. 2 weeks later, she called me and asked me if I stopped acting like an immature brat. Before I even said anything, she started telling me all about how she got pounded by 4 guys, 2 of which she did at the same time. I broke down when she told me this. She said she did not want to hurt me so she wouldn't be telling me any more about what she does. I told her that I had no desire to talk with her anymore period. That I was willing to work on things before she slept with other people, but that was the end of it for me. She said once again that I was being immature and that she would just wait for me to contact her when I was grown up enough to understand that there is a difference between intimacy and love. That was the last time I spoke to her until about 1 month ago when she moved back home and showed up at my house one night acting like we had been together and not apart for 3 years. She did not expect nor appreciate my reaction to her showing up. I opened the door and there she was with a big smile on her face. She immediately asked to come in and I said I would come outside, which obviously caught her off guard. I asked what she wanted and she said, and I quote, "Well, that's a hell of a way to greet someone you love." To which I told her that she was delusional and that whatever love I had for her died the day she told me she had already started having intimacy with other men. She honestly had a very confused look on her face and then said, and I quote again, "Are you still uptight about all of that?" And then said, "I would have thought by now you would have grown up about that." I told her that not only was I not over it, that I would never be over it other than to be over us. At which time she proceeds to say to me, "You mean to tell me you are throwing away everything that we are together because of some stupid physical issue? I know we love each other and are meant to be together, so how do we fix this?" I was just dumbstruck. How can one person be this stupid? I asked her what I was throwing away. We have not spoken in almost 3 years other than via text, and even then it was her texting me and not me replying. She left very disappointed and that should have been the end of it. But here is the kick in the butt. I have now been inundated by friends, her family, and hell, even some of my family wanting to know why I was throwing away someone so special. I ended up telling my family members the truth, and after they heard about it they quickly recanted and told me to tell her to F off. But to her family, I just said she dumped me years ago and we hadn't been together for almost 3 years. This came as a shock to them, as she had been telling them all along that we were still a couple, and even when she was home on breaks would tell them we planned on marrying. At first, they didn't believe me that we hadn't seen each other in years, and I'm still not sure they do. I told my parents and they suggested that I should just go along with what she says because she's my one true love. My friends are even saying the same. They know the truth and yet they think I'm being weird about all of this. They said when you are young you are supposed to play the field, but if you love someone you know that in the end, you will be together. Am I wrong?
I slept with the father of my son's girlfriend, and it was one of the most wonderful nights of my life, and I have feelings for him now. Okay, so I, 32F, got pregnant with my son when I was 16, and I have had sex twice since then, and none of those times were particularly great. Additionally, I've never had a boyfriend or really been interested in any men I've come across since my son was born. My son recently started going out with this girl, also 16, and she's a really sweet girl, and she wanted me to meet her father, so we arranged that. He's 38 and is also a single parent, and we hit it off really well. We exchanged numbers after we met, and I actually called him twice in the past week, and we talked for more than 2 hours both times. So this weekend my son and his girlfriend are off on a school trip, and I called up her father, and asked if he could help me with a project we had talked about. To make a long story short, we sat down and talked for a while. Things started to escalate. He kissed me, then we moved to my bedroom and had sex. I had no idea I was even capable of feeling some of the physical ecstasy I felt while we had sex. He clearly knew what he was doing, and Jesus Christ, I can't put into words just how amazing that was. I feel I left reality and couldn't even keep track of how many times I orgasmed. Just that it was so damn good. Okay, but now that that's done. Afterwards we lied in my bed and cuddled for a while, and he stayed the night in my bed while we slept next to each other. It was one of the loveliest things I've ever experienced. Then this morning I made him breakfast and told him I had never felt anything like that before, and he laughed and said he hadn't had that much fun during sex in God knows how long. After this night, I would love to be in a relationship with this man. He's really kind and funny, and I really love his company in addition to how he makes me feel. That being said, let's just remember that we met because our kids are dating. I don't want my son to feel betrayed or have to deal with any potential fallout situations, but Jesus Christ, I'm dying to ask this man out on a formal date. So yeah, sticky situation. My husband thinks I slept with another man, but the reality is different. I caught my husband of 10 years cheating on me with multiple women. He bragged about how he was able to get laid. I know one woman who is 19 years old. It seems like it was just an ego boost for him. I always knew he had issues with his ego. He was a very insecure man. Whenever someone does something better than him, he would get jealous. Looking back, I regret choosing him. Because I thought that he was a sweet person, so it didn't matter if he is a bit egotistical. When I found out that he was cheating, I left him and took my kids with me. I also exposed his affairs. He has since been begging me to take him back. I know for sure he is begging because his mom kicked his ass. No one is taking his side. His last straw is to make me reconcile with him, so that he is somewhat acceptable. I refused. Because all the things he said about me, about my body, he can never come back from it. I nearly died after giving birth to my son, and all he said was that my body is ruined. So my friend gave me an idea to hook up with someone else as a revenge. I was hesitant. I am not someone who can do random hookups, so I staged a lie. With the help of my friends, I staged having a revenge affair. The last time he came to convince me, he said he cut off all contact with his AP and got himself into therapy. I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to crush his ego and crush his confidence. I told him that I slept with someone else. At first he didn't believe me, told me I was lying. I pulled out my phone where there was text exchange between me and a random guy, which was just me and my friends chatting. We exchanged pics, fake pics, and there were spicy messages. He started to believe me. He pestered to know more about the guy. I made up a story how he is someone I met at the gym. I can see him losing his shit. He started cursing me. How can you do this to me? He started asking me questions. Did you use protection? How many times did you do it? Did he make me come? The last thing that actually broke him was when he asked my friend about it. She is the friend with whom I'm staying currently. She lied to him and said that we were making noises all night. And I send my kids to my mom's for that. I can see my cheating husband having a meltdown. He really thought he was all that. I might end up hooking up with a random person because I am done with him and I'm done with our marriage. Son's stepmom walking around in her underwear. My ex-husband and I have been divorced since our son was 7 years old. My ex-husband is remarried and he and his wife have 2 young kids. We have shared custody of our son, and he lives at both houses. We, my son and I, have never had any issues with his stepmom. He likes her. I'm not friends with her, but I felt like I could trust her with taking care of my son when he's with them. I was comfortable with her being this extra parental figure in his life, and have felt thankful that my ex-husband married her. They got married when our son was 10, but he was 8 when he first met her. Over winter break, my son and I were at home watching something, and at a part where a woman was in her bra and underwear. No, we weren't watching anything inappropriate, just a normal TV show. He said that his stepmom had started walking around in her bra and underwear when he's over there. She'll walk around the living room or across the house to supposedly go get something from another room and have nothing but a bra and a thong on. He was like, "It's weird." I asked if she has always done this and he said no, only recently. He says every time it happens, she acts like she does it all the time, and she just forgot that he was in the house. But then he said, one time she made him and his 2 younger siblings dinner while wearing nothing but her underwear, and a tiny silk robe, untied. She's also sat next to him on the couch, in just her underwear, and asked him to rub her feet, which he refused. He says it's really weird and uncomfortable, like she is just waiting for his reaction, and it never seems to be accidental. Curiously, these accidents only happen when his dad isn't there. He hasn't mentioned it at all to his dad. He also asked me if I noticed how much she's changed her appearance, and now his friends think she's hot, and it's why he's mainly started to only invite his friends to my house. She used to be more soccer mom-like. Never unattractive, but just like a young mom. Now it's like she's trying to appear super sexy all the time, which I have noticed but thought, maybe it was just the result of wanting to feel good about herself after having 2 kids. There's nothing wrong with changing your appearance, but it seems to coincide with this new inappropriate behavior around my son. Try to get a reaction out of your husband, not his 15-year-old son. He asked me to promise to not say anything to his dad or stepmom, because it'll make things awkward, but I can't not say anything. Normally I like to be somebody he feels he can talk to in confidence, but this just makes me too uncomfortable to not address. It sounds to me like she's intentionally doing this and I can't for a second believe it's accidental. One time, maybe. But making a whole meal dressed like that?
I slept with a girl who has revealed to me something extremely disturbing. Been chatting with this girl, IDK, that I necessarily saw a future with her from the go, but we got along. Started hooking up, and while we weren't exclusive or officially labeled, we were circling that relationship arena after some time. She would sleep over from time to time, and I'd stay at her place too. And this is where it all unraveled. We spent the evening together at her place and decided that I'd stay the night. She showered and got ready for bed before me because I decided to shave my beard and the cleanup took a bit of time. I showered and I was finishing up when I started to hear her giggling and laughing hysterically in bed. I can't hear what she's watching because of the bathroom fan, so I figured she's watching something funny. This keeps on going for a while. And I'm laughing too because she has a contagious laugh. So I'm eager to plop into bed with this girl to see what's so funny. It wasn't funny, it was straight NSFL gore videos of terrorists torturing and shooting captives, live leak style, people falling off buildings, gang tortures, etc. Now, I've seen all this stuff before out of morbid curiosity, and videos like that make me a bit more cautious about life and gives me a refreshed appreciation for it, but I don't find it funny. This girl was crying, laughing, and acted like I shouldn't be surprised. I didn't say anything. I slept with one eye open. This was last night. I changed the door lock code to my house. I don't know yet how I am going to end this, but it's happening. And in the small off chance you, the girl I'm seeing, reads this, you are fucking crazy. Edit update. She became wise to my silence and we're having a conversation, but it's hard to not see her differently. I am treating the situation like any other and treating her like a human because that's what she is. But I am alarmed nevertheless. We'll write more later as I'm trying to juggle work in this situation. I think my mom was a pedo. This story begins in our old 2-story home. My room was one of 4 on the 2nd floor. At one time it was the room I shared with my older brother. We fought but we got along. Then came a time when my father decided to replace our old beds with bunk beds. We were growing out of them. I was excited to hopefully play with my brother. When it was finally set up, my mom moved my brother to the guest room. I guess he was around 7 at that time. Another room on the 2nd floor, the same as my parents' bedroom, and here where it starts. The only time I ever saw my brother was when I also saw my mother. When I asked him what was going on, he told me that him and mom played secret games, and both of them weren't wearing any clothes. After this, my brother said nothing. Want to point out here, my brother was mentally challenged. It wasn't bad, he just needed help from time to time. This came a point when my parents were fighting. I was told to go outside, and later my father stormed out. I remember hearing something that my mother loved my brother more than him. My mother frankly after that never stopped giving my brother extra attention. It got strange again when it was discovered my father had terminal cancer and later moved to hospice. Meanwhile my brother was moved into my parents' bedroom. We eventually lost the house and later moved into a small aptee. Since yours truly was a very sound sleeper. I would only discover later, mainly through used condoms I had found, that they were having sex. I am unsure when their sexual relations actually started. Given the fact my mother did not want to see me nude for any reason. I now believe she was trying to protect me from her own desires. This continued until my mother's fatal stroke, 25 years after it started. But to his dying day my brother would never talk about this one way or another. Even after I confronted him. Fiancé left me due to my cancer diagnosis. I left her destitute part 2. At this point I had finished chemo and radiation for the time being and was feeling healthier. I was going through some much neglected paperwork when I ran across the file that contained $32,680 in unpaid long overdue invoices, which were promptly sent to my attorney to begin lien proceedings on the home. It turns out that I couldn't have done this a moment too soon because she was set to put her house on the market. Coupled with interest over the course of, what was then, 19 months overdue. The invoices were hefty. That, along with the agreement of settling them when the house was sold and attorney fees, left her with roughly $10,000 after the sale of the home and settling her current mortgage. She promptly had to back out of the purchase of another home and moved in with her oldest daughter, Sil, and 2 grandchildren. She also had to leave her job and begin receiving disability. I ran into her a little over a year ago, and she looked as if she had aged 20 years and was in the wheelchair we had talked about. We chatted cordially but briefly, and I excused myself and went on with my day. A few days later, her younger daughter called me and spoke of my running into her mom, and could we hang out sometime? I gave a vague answer, thanked her for calling and again, went on with my day. The ex then called me a week or so later, and began apologizing for leaving me as she did. Again, cordial but short, I thanked her for calling and hung up. She began texting, and this went on for several weeks until one she asked if I could ever see us rekindling what we had, to which I replied, I can't see myself taking care of someone so sick in the long term. Remember the box on your back porch? Did you think that lifelong friend brought that over to you from my house? Good luck to you, goodbye. I sometimes feel guilt over this, but not much, and not often.
I sucked for a cheeseburger. This happened a couple of years ago. I was in a very tough spot in my life at the time and I was struggling financially, so you can picture why I ended up doing this. It was a late afternoon and it was starting to get dark outside. I was walking on the sidewalk right next to a McDonald's, talking to a friend of mine on the phone, when suddenly this red pickup truck pulls up right next to me. Inside the truck there was a middle-aged man, probably in his early 40s, smoking a cigarette. He rolls down his window and asks me if I needed a ride. Jokingly, I decided to reply to him that I didn't need a ride, but I'd appreciate it if he bought me a burger. After I told him that, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If you bell 3W me, I'll give you $50 to buy as many burgers as you want." I was a bit hesitant at first. After all, I didn't know this guy, but at the same time I could really use some extra money, so at the end I decided to get in his car. He drove us to a secluded alley and I got to work. I probably BL3W him for a solid 5 minutes, until he finally came. He paid me up, and I was on my way. After the deed was done, I immediately headed back to the McDonald's and got myself 2 cheeseburgers. With the rest of the money I bought myself some groceries. This is definitely not one of my proudest moments, but I'm not ashamed of it either. My husband is cheating on me with my best friend. I'm honestly not sure where to start, so I guess I'll just start. My husband and I have been dating since I was 19, and he was 22. We've been married for 6 years now. We have 2 kids, and I'm 6 months pregnant with our third. 2 years ago I found out my dad has stage 3 colon cancer. My dad is my only parent as my mom passed away when I was 12. He's my favorite human, and life without him doesn't seem as colorful. His laugh is contagious and he gives these big bear hugs that seem to make all of your broken pieces feel like they're perfectly in place again. Whenever I've had a hard day, he doesn't poke and prod and just lets me vent and listens. About 5 months ago, we discovered the treatments aren't working for him, and in direct quote of the doctor, he said months, not years. Since then he's gotten progressively worse and now is losing memory. He looked at the dog he got for me on my 21st birthday and said, "Wow, that's a nice dog, where'd you get it?" My husband has been my absolute rock. He has been there for me, holding my hand and helping me through this. He's been so loving and attentive to both my kids and I. Don't get me wrong, I am a mother first always. I don't allow myself to wallow. My kids are still loved, cared for, played with, and I haven't let my load slack around the house. Once my dad got his updated prognosis, my husband encouraged me to quit my job. About a month later we discovered we were pregnant again, and I still hadn't let go of my job. I kept holding out for some reason. After finding out I was pregnant again, he assured me it was still okay to quit my job, that honestly it would save us a small fortune on daycare costs anyways. So I did. I quit my job. My best friend and I have been friends since diapers. Her family is like my family and vice versa. My mom and her mom grew up together. We've always been solid, and right after my dad's appointment, when we found out he had so little time left, I drove straight to her house and she held me while I cried for hours. If there are soulmates in friend form, she was mine. Thick as thieves, is what my mom used to say. This morning as I was up with my 3-year-old, he's sick, my husband's work alarm was going off. He has a few he sets, so I turned that one off and gently woke him up. He said he was up late working, so he took the morning off, rolled over and went back to sleep. As I went to turn off the remainder of his alarms, I saw a text from my friend on his lock screen that said, "I'm assuming since there hasn't been an angry pregnant lady on my doorstep, you haven't told her about us yet." Time froze in that moment. I took his phone and walked away, and just read their conversations. 4 months this man has been fucking my best friend. 4 months these people have been lying to my face. And I know what you're gonna say, you should have seen the warning signs. But I've been clutching this phone in my hand for 2 hours, and nothing. He has been so loving and attentive to me, but he always has been. So kind and gentle. There has been no late night work nights except for once in a blue moon. There has been no lingering touches between them or even glances. They act as they have since the day I first introduced them. How sick is it that she calls him her brother but she screws him? I know so many people get a moment of clarity in situations like this, but I have none. Aside from being sad about my dad, I haven't changed. I'm still a loving wife and mother. I still doted on him and my children. I talked to him about how he is doing and how was his day every freaking day. I haven't allowed the ground to swallow me whole. I know what I have to do now, but I just don't want to. I'm about to lose my family and my support system in one blow. I'll confront him tomorrow. Today. Today I just need this last 24 hours of peace. As for her, I won't give her the satisfaction of a response. I don't care why she did it and it's done. I was always the friend who cleaned up her messes. After today I will cut her out of my life like she never mattered at all. This has to be the hardest storm I'll ever weather, but damn it, I know it'll sail through it. If not for me, for my children.